What's up, TexAgs? Billy Liucci, joined today by a very special guest on the LiucciCast. One of the closest people in my life, an all-time favorite, not only here in Aggieland, but also Miami, New Orleans, Detroit, Glen Rose / Meridian, Texas. Dan Campbell. Dan, I appreciate you taking what little, I don't know if you do free time knowing you, but what little free time you've got left and sitting down and catching up, brother.
Yeah, man. No, I'm happy to be here. It's always good to talk to you. I know it's been a while, but yeah, as you know, you and I go way back. So looking forward to it, man.
Well, I want to start off with something, and you know, it's not much more than 10 years ago, Dan. Because I know who the players were on the A&M team at the time. Luke Jokel. I remember he was a true freshman, but the other day I was leaving town for Cleveland, and I drive by an RV park, and I'm just like, it was wild to me that it's little more than a decade ago. You were in your fifth wheel. Is that what we call that? What is that called?
Yeah, that's a fifth wheel.
In that RV park, and it was, I think it was you and Marco Rivera were living in there, and you were trying to decide, right, if coaching was going to be your career path, if it was college coach or what it was. And Mike Sherman gave you the chance. I think a lot of people don't realize it was not only you, it was Zach Taylor there, 2 of the 32 NFL head coaches. They're working with a former NFL coach. Could you have ever at that time, Dan, when we're sitting there and after practice hanging out talking, envisioned where this journey has taken you so far?
No, I wouldn't have, and I couldn't have. And really, I am fortunate that Mike Sherman allowed me to come down and kind of shadow those guys and learn from them and see what it was all about and be around it. It was good. Look, they took great care of me over there at the RV park. So I had everything I needed, and it wasn't like I was roughing it, but no, I couldn't have imagined that. But I've always been a guy who, man, if you get an opportunity, you make the most of it, and then you just go to work and, keep your eyes where they belong. And that's on what's in front of you, the work ahead of you. And if you're able to progress, that's awesome. If not, then you've done all you can and you put your best foot forward.
Was there ever another time I remember as we were sitting in New Orleans? It was probably right before it was the national championship, LSU Clemson. So going back, that was Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence, and we're sitting there having lunch, and I felt like it was kind of you were reaching a turning point, right? Like you were, there in New Orleans, trying to ultimately get back into that head chair that you held for those 12 games in Miami. Did you ever get not discouraged in terms of the career, but discouraged in terms of your path to get there? Or did you always know you were going to end up getting that next shot to be a head coach?
Well, look, once I got the interim, that opportunity as interim and the Dolphins, then I knew, like, I just felt like I was meant to be doing that. I was meant to be a head coach. And then it was about, how do I set myself up the best and get the best training I can to get back to that? And that was going back with Sean, man. I was fortunate that, he called me and said, "Hey, man, why don't you come out here and I'll help you. I'll teach you all the things that you're looking for." And it helps when you've been in that role too, that now you know what to look for. Before that, you don't even know what you don't know what you're a position coach or you're a coordinator, and you don't think about half these things because you don't have to think about them when you're not the head coach. But once you sit in that seat, it does two things, man. It gives you perspective. It allows you to start trying to, man, I got to fill in the blanks on some of this. But the perspective is great because, man, all I wanted to do when I went back to New Orleans was, man, how do I take something off of Sean? Because you know what it's like when you sit in that seat. And it's just, man, I want to do everything I can to help him succeed and take as much pressure off him as I can. And that was one of the best things I got out of that experience and to step back into it. And so, No, look, you're always gonna wish things moved faster, but like I say, man, I just wanted to do my job, and if I could help those guys around me, I'm always about being the best teammate I can, and that applies to coaching, man. I want to be the best teammate I can to the O-line coach, to the linebacker coach, to the head coach, to the OC, to the D, whatever I can do and be part of it and help those guys, man, that's what I wanted to do, and certainly the players that are under you.
Yeah, when it was, you were different to me after that Miami thing, and that was one of, sitting down with you. I just remember in New Orleans going, you just, the way you talked about it, you had it, to piggyback your answer, it just felt like that was a different Dan. You had a different, different vantage point about the whole thing, and just kind of walked away from that thinking it's coming. But for a guy that was, you hadn't, with the way it was set up in New Orleans, it was going to be hard to be the OC there, right? And the play caller. So it was just about getting that opportunity. And there it was in Detroit. And take me through just that, how much they believed in you and the Ford family, and to bring you up there. Because I tell people all the time, Dan, when they talk about things like Texas A&M or, the, Dallas Cowboys are looking, I'm like, Dan Campbell's staying in Detroit. Like, if you don't believe that, you don't know him, you don't understand him, because the chance they took on you and the belief they had in you after the journey you had, I think is going to keep you loyal to them forever.
Well, there's no question. And, isn't it kind of funny that we're sitting there talking about, that me being loyal to the Detroit Lions after the history that they've had,
Yeah.
and all the years of suffering and losing and all these things. But it just goes to show what, Sheila Hamp has done, our owner, certainly the Ford family, Mrs. Ford and the siblings and all of them. But Sheila's who I really answer to directly, and really is the one who gave me this opportunity. And man, she wanted it. Everything started with her here, and I'm indebted to her. And really, it was from the organization, what goes on over at the stadium, from the marketing to to I mean, everything, ticket sales, to the football department, to health and safety, all of it is, man, she wanted to do things different. She wanted everything to run like a team. Like, literally, she wanted to run like a team. And that was what we were really charged with, man. I don't want any toxicity in this. I want everybody to feel like they're a part of it, that you don't have, your job is not minute. Whatever you do is going to have a huge impact on our success here. And so that's what it was really, man. How can we be all inclusive here, and everybody's got a voice, and we are all a team, and so I just carried that because that's who I am, and I ultimately, that's what they were looking for. And I've gone into these, like, look, Billy, this. I had about 7 of these, right?
Yeah.
I had like 7 head coaching interviews. And they always started the same way. And so did Detroit when Sheila got on. Now, she was different. Man, she was different.
Really?
But, man, we're looking for a leader of men. We don't care about this. We want a leader of men. We want somebody that can stand in front of the room. They can command respect. They can get guys to do what you ask them to do, man. They're good dudes off the field, man. They play hard on the field. All this stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, and it's no disrespect for anybody that's been hired, because those are good men too. But there's so many times, like, no, that's not. You're not hiring what you're talking about. That's not what you got. Was an unbelievable offensive coordinator, and he's probably going to be a head coach. But you're going off of X's and O's, or offense or defense or whatever, and you're not going off what you're saying you're going off of. And Sheila, man, to a T, she knew what she was looking for, and she took a shot on me. And a lot of that too is Chris Spillman, man.
Really?
Chris Spillman was there, ex-player, and he was a guy who really believed in that too. It's like, man, you need somebody that's a head coach, and then you can decide on the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, let the head coach do all that. But I was fortunate, man. She stood by what she believed in.
Well, and you mentioned just that organizational feel, just having the privilege to be there and see it. I wasn't there pre-Dan Campbell. I wasn't there year one, so I don't know. I know what the record looks like, but you go to Detroit right now, and it's in the building, it's in the tunnels, it's the whoever's getting on and off the elevator, it's your staff, which we're going to talk about in a minute. It's the vibe in that building. It's the Detroit celebrities, the former players. You go out after the game, which unfortunately you miss out on, but we get to experience, like after that first playoff win. I'm watching people walk out of there crying with their dads. What does that mean to you, Dan, to be, whatever you want to think your role in it is, I'll just say like a catalyst, the driving force of that, and to watch what's happened, not just in your building, players, coaches, ownership, but the entire city?
Yeah, it means a lot, and it means a lot. And I've said this before. There's so many things, man. I had my eyes open to this place when I played here. And look, I was hurt most of the time. I was here 06 through 08. I really played most of the football in 2006.
They finally threw you the ball. You finally got to show off those hands.
Yeah. But man, my eyes were open because I was like anybody else. I'm coming up to Detroit. I know that they've had it. There's been a lot of losing since Barry left, Barry Sanders, and and that kind of era. But it's been rough. It's been dysfunctional. It's all this stuff. Man, Detroit it's a crap hole. It's a dead city. It's the auto industry is caving in. It's all this stuff. And it's crime, it's bad people, and you get up here and you realize, man, it's not anything. It's not anything as it's portrayed. It's not that. Now, are there things about? Yeah, there's things like any city or any part that's struggling a little bit. But what I realized, man, this fan base, like, why it's special? Because this is the closest thing you can get to Texas A&M.
It is. It's college. It's passion, and they feel a part of it.
And that's hard to find in the NFL. Like, people don't understand that. That's hard to get that again. But you come out here and you play here, you coach here, you're a fan here, man. It feels that way. So it was to be a part of that and to know when I got here, I'm like, oh my God, this is a sleeping giant. Like this could be one of the best places ever to come and play and be a part of this, man. They love their Detroit Lions. They love sports. And it's just waiting, man. If you can just get everything aligned properly and you bring in the right pieces, the right people, this could be something special. And so I've always had that in the back of my head. And so to get that opportunity, and be part of it, and ultimately that's what it takes a village. It takes a lot of people, man, and I know. Yes, I'm the head coach, but man, Brad Holmes, our general manager, already talked about Sheila Hamp, man, or Ben Johnson, who's gone now, Aaron Glenn, who's gone now, but then the guys that are here, the players, Goff, and Frank Ragnow, who just retired. I can keep going down the line here. Yeah. St. Brown, Sewell, Kirby, Branch. So we got so many guys that are a part of this, but it took all of us, and it's taking all of us, and the job won't be done until we win a Super Bowl, and that's the plan, because that really defines what you are and what you're about.
Well, but first of all, by the way, any NFL team that's got a fight song, like going back to the old NFL, like Lions, Commander, Washington, those type teams, I genuinely kind of lean to. Most of them are probably in y'all's division. But yeah, would it surprise you to say that I went up there and waved the flag after one and it got all tangled up? Like I waved it. So people listening, everybody at the front of the suites all have flags, and it's really cool when you look around the stadium. But if you'd have seen mine, it got like tangled up.
No, that doesn't surprise me. And I can also see you giving somebody, it's like a whip. You're whipping one of these fans over the next booth.
And I don't even know it. I'm hitting Bob Seger with it, and I don't even realize it.
Oh, my God.
No, well, you mentioned, Dan, and everything's a journey and a path. And I know it's been well documented, like the foundation you built it on going back to the very beginning. But what can you think of in that first season, or I guess it was probably that second season? I remember talking, you guys were losing so many close games, like agonizingly close. Like it was, we've got a big Lions fan down here. You met him, my man Zane. So we would talk every week about the games, and it was just like you were watching the Detroit Lions and going, they're really good. They actually already are really good, but it's not showing up. Was there a turning point that you can go back to, whether it be a drive, a game, a player acquisition, whatever it was, that you felt like, okay, now we're not close to there yet, but now it's starting to turn?
Well, I think certainly if you're gonna ask me a game, the game would have been Green Bay here. That was a turning point. We were 1-6 in that second year. We were coming off of 3-13-1. My first year, 2022. We won our opener, and then we proceeded to lose 5 in a row. And to your point, man, they were all close, all but one. We go out to New England, man, they blew our doors off out there. And then Dallas, it got away at the end. But really it was, man, Miami, we were up 2 scores, all these games, and we hadn't quite figured out how to finish some of these opponents off. And it was the same thing, dude. It's what losing teams do. We always found a way to lose the game.
Yeah.
At the end. And that was the little point we had to get over, that little amount of pressure that builds subconsciously, like, man, you're in the heat of the moment, and instead of rising above that, and this is my time to take the team over the top, make the right calls, man, stand firm on what you believe in, man, we would crack.
Yeah.
We cracked collectively. And really, Green Bay was a turning point. The week before, Sheila, the media is all over me, apparently. That's what I'm being told. Because I do not, I don't look at that stuff when but they're calling for me to be over with, and she stands behind me. She said, no, I trust these guys. I trust Dan. They're going to get it done. And I stood up in front of the team before that game, and I just said, guys, we are so close. Mm-hmm. And the work that was getting put in, man, nobody got discouraged. It doesn't mean you're not frustrated with the losing, but nobody got down in the dumps. Nobody felt sorry for themselves. Man, we just kept trying to correct the issues and get better in those moments when the game was on the line. And man, Green Bay, our defense freaking played outstanding. They won the game for us. Huge. Kirby had 3, interceptions that day. And then offensively, we did enough to score, and then that all of a sudden, man, we went 8 out of 10, and we finished at Green Bay on the road at their place. That was big. And so once we kind of got that taste and what it would require, we never looked back. And that's what winning teams do, man. That's what champions do. And so that's where we're at right now.
Well, and you guys were at the doorstep 2 years ago, and the best regular season in team history last year. So future's as bright as it's ever been. But you mentioned the turnover, right? That's the NFL. That's sports, period. And guys like Ragnow and Ben Johnson and AG. I know you told me a while back how excited you are about this staff. Take me through this, what's going to be different this year, and I guess just talk about why you made the moves you did. What first with the 2 coordinators? What is it that you saw in each of them to make obviously such important replacements? Because we saw what those 2 guys did and where they're at now based on their success under you guys in Detroit.
Yeah, look, I would say, man, I wanted, as much as I can have continuity, I wanted continuity, but I also didn't want to do it for the sake of continuity, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, all right, you look at, man, who's somebody you've been around, you trust, they have an understanding of your team, they understand offensive football and defensive football. They're going to be able to command the room. You know, when you're not in there, man, they're going to command the room. They're going to respect them. They're detailed. They're grinders. You know, team oriented. And so, you know, I think of it those terms. And then ultimately, it's like with any coach that I bring in, man, what is the mesh going to, what's the chemistry? Like, I'm big on chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I will turn down. You can tell me this is the greatest coach that ever lived from a X's and O's scheme eval, and if they can't get along with the other four guys, I'm not doing it, man.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. It's toxic, and that'll kill you before anything will. That'll derail you in a hurry. So, you know, John Morton was somebody I worked with, man. We worked together at New Orleans under Sean Payton, and I've told you this, Billy. That was one of the best staff I'd ever been on.
Yeah.
Collectively, I mean, across the board, all those coaches, man. We were like a fine-tuned machine under Sean. Man, we knew what he wanted. We worked well together. We all grinded, and we had all the answers. We always had all the answers ready to go, and it was awesome. But we were all different. You know, we all played off each other. You know, we were able to cover our, you know, a coach's weakness with somebody else's strength, and vice versa. And so that's big for me. And so John Morton was somebody I worked with, I trust. And then he was here in 2022 as our pass game coordinator when, you know, when we revamped this after 21, you know, I'd let Anthony Lynn go. He was our OC, and then I promoted Ben Johnson. Well, I had brought in John Morton as pass game coordinator, so he was involved in this when we kind of revamped it for golf the first time. So he knows Sewell, he knows St. Brown, he knows golf. He's got a rapport with him. He knows me, obviously well. So there is carryover there, and he'll be different. He's not going to be Ben, but ultimately there's going to be things he's going to want to do that I believe in. He's going to do things that maybe he hasn't done a lot of that I'm going to want to do, and that's fine. But I also know our quarterback's comfortable with it. I know Gibbs can do it, or Montgomery, the O-line, the receivers, J-Mo. And then on defense, you know, Kelvin Shepard promoted him. He was our linebackers coach, and really about 2 or 3 years ago, I'm like, man, this guy's going to be a D coordinator. I mean, he's rises quick, man. He's a good teacher. He reminds me a lot of myself just in the way that he coaches and teaches on the field as a position coach, you know, watching him go through his business. And he's just outstanding, man. He's everything that you're looking for to command the room, and he is smart. And he's got a few different ideas than AG. There'll be a lot of things that we're going to keep and play. Like, we're going to be aggressive, all right, and we're going to play man to man, and we're going to get in your grill, and we're going to challenge on the perimeter. We're going to challenge up front. That's what we do, and that's not going to change. Now, there may be some calls and how we do it when we do it, but and that's what Shepard can bring. So. You know, those guys I trust a lot, and I think they just naturally will slide right into those roles and do a good job. You know, we're going to have some growing pains here that we got to go through, just like I did with AG and Ben 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, and we got through it, and that's what this will be. But I love the staff right now.
Why is Aaron Glenn going to succeed in New York? Well, if I told you we're going to look back in a few years and Aaron Glenn's going to be the first guy in a while to achieve real success with the New York Jets, tell me why that's going to happen.
Man, AG, all right. You know, it's kind of like, all right, who are you going to follow? And, you know, you're in this profession. All right, man, do I respect this guy? And the way he talks to me, the way he stands in front of the room, you know, does he understand his own craft? Does he understand the ins and outs of the NFL? Does he understand the psyche of a football player? Does he know the X's and O's? Like, man, is he putting us in position to have success? And, man, does he give a shit? Like, does he care? Does this guy care? AG checks every one of those boxes, man. And, you know, like, AG is one of those guys that when I'm around him, you know, there's a number of times I go in there, I sit with the defense, and he's in front of that room. And then I would have him stand up in front of the team, you know, periodically, and just, hey, man, AG, whatever's on your mind, man, give it to him.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get goosebumps listening to AG. And I respect the hell out of him. I think he's a rock star, and he should have been a head coach 5 years ago, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was fortunate to be able to keep him as long as I did, but I just think he's man, he's everything you're looking for. And he's a team guy. He's a grinder. He's going to do whatever it takes. He's going to check every box. He's going to turn over every rock. Man, he's in it for the emotion of it. He wants to know you're doing okay. He's going to check in on you. He wants to know about your family, like everything. And he's special. He's special.
Yeah. And also the best corner I've ever seen at A&M. No offense to Kevin Smith. I got here right after Pop.
Listen,
But, man, AG was so good. Him and Ray.
he was unbelievable. I tell him all the time, first game that I came to as a recruit out in Aggie land was a Thursday night game. I'm pretty sure it was Thursday night against Louisville. And he had a punt return for a touchdown, and he runs it all the way back, and he gets in front of the cannon and points at the cannon, and they shoot at the same time he points right at the cannon. I was like, man, I'm coming here.
Goosebumps.
I'm all in. You know, it was unbelievable. But
well, that and the Longhorn coach. What happened on that recruiting? He came to see you, and that's a great story. Who it was it Bucky? Tell that one, because that's a classic. Bucky Godbolt.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that one was, first of all, look, my parents, and Billy, you know my parents, but my dad, I mean, he's a cowboy, man. We grew up in the country working cattle, goats. He's also a Marine, and so he's wanting me to go to A&M. I'd had a cousin, family member that went to University of Texas, so you know that piqued my interest because my older cousin went there. You know, it's like, but A&M had been on me, and man, they showed interest from the get-go. But my dad, man, he really wanted me. You know, A&M's right for you. It matches you. It's just, it makes too much sense. Yeah, I got it, Dad. Well, Bucky comes out there, recruiting coordinator. Or, you know, came out recruiting me from Texas, and we live out in the middle of nowhere. So I had to give him, you know, in the dirt road, you're going to take a left when you see this, yada, yada. You're going to cross a bridge and, you know, all this.
No MapQuest, no OnStar.
No, none of that. And like, you're writing down what I'm telling you here. And so he gets there and he gets out of his truck. And of course, Mom and Dad come out, you know, we got dinner. They made dinner for him. They get out of the house. He gets out of the car and his eyes are, you know, they're like this big. And he's got this look like, what? He goes, man, you know, I've never seen a black deer like that, you know? And my dad just, because I knew what it was immediately. And, my dad just looks at me and drops his head like, you know, and so I know that was already strike one. And it ended up, they were Spanish goats that our neighbors had that had gotten out through the creek bed, and they were on our side of the fence. But they're just our neighbors' goats, man. They're just Spanish goats. And so my dad, when he said that, it was a downer. And needless to say, RC shows up about 3 weeks later. He knew exactly what they were.
Some great Spanish goats out there.
Those are beautiful Spanish goats you got there, Larry. And he was like, well, those aren't mine. You know, appreciate that, Coach. But those are, you know, he's all in now, right?
Let's be honest. I would have definitely been the one to come in there as the recruiter and say, man, those black deer were crazy.
No, you wouldn't have, Billy. I guarantee you would have known it's a goat.
I probably would have. Even me. Exactly. Hey, and one more thing about the Lions before I want to ask you some A&M stuff and close it out, having some fun. The injuries last year, you mentioned AG and what an amazing job he did to navigate that. And then I want to talk about one game last year, and it wasn't a loss. You know, I don't want to talk about game you lost because people were hurt, whatever. The win over Green Bay. I was there. You came down. You had an ear-to-ear grin. That was just a wild game, a fun game. You are famous for rolling the dice. People don't realize it. We got a coach over here in Coach Elko. We talk about it all the time after y'all's games because he subscribes to kind of the same philosophy. You're gonna go with, and tell me if I'm wrong here. You're gonna go with what the chart say, what it tells you to do combined with feel, right? You have to feel the game. And you and I talked about this for when you were coming up. We'd have these conversations like, did you watch that game? What'd you think? I think as soon as you lose feel for it is when you stop trusting, you lose trust, players, coaches, the whole deal. You have to have feel for the game. And that Green Bay game, I thought was a perfect example because you guys were so decimated on defense. Like you came out and said, those guys were playing their hearts out in that game. And you were a yard away from winning the game versus giving the ball back to Love and that offense that was heating up. Explain, that's just one little moment in time, but I thought it said everything in a division game against that team, knowing what it meant for the home field later on. I thought it said everything about not only you, but the Lions and really that franchise, that city. And talk about that decision and what went into that.
Well, yeah, look, we knew going in, I am a little more aggressive by nature anyway. But I knew going into that game what we needed to do. And it's funny, but early in the week, I showed the guys, Billy, you'd appreciate this, but you remember Last of the Mohicans where they end up, the French, they get them, they call a truce, but they've got to leave the fort. The British do. And so now they're on that long journey, and Daniel Day-Lewis is in cuffs and and they're and then they're in the forest now, and they're surrounded on both sides, and all of a sudden, man, here they come, right? The Huron just come out of nowhere with the tomahawks so I showed them that, and I said, defense, this is what I want it to look like. You're the Huron, and I don't give a shit. You just come out with the tomahawks and just swing and hit whatever you can as long as you can. And that's all that is required. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. You just give them hell for 60 minutes and make them earn everything and make them hurt if they do get something. And offense, you got to go win this game. The onus is on you. If it doesn't work out like we want it to, then you got to pull the slack for us. You got to tighten the rope here. And so they knew that. And so I wanted to be aggressive, but I also told them that may mean that we don't have success on one of these times that we do it. Maybe two. I don't know. You roll the dice, and sure enough, that happened. We were in negative territory, went for it on 4th and 1, and we didn't get it. But you can't worry about those, man. That's like worrying about taking, you're going to miss on the last shot of the game. Who does that? You can't do that. If that's what you're thinking about, then you've already lost. And so I think it's a lot, the mentality is the same. If you know why you're doing it and you believe in your guys and man, you love the plays and you've practiced the plays and you've put them in that scenario over and over. That's the other thing. We put our guys in that scenario week in and week out, man. We run 4th downs. We make them to where there is something on the line, and so you do apply pressure on your guys to perform. And so I think that's big. I do think you have to have a feel for it. You got to have a feel of where the game's at, what it looks like over there, your own players, it makes it a lot easier to do some of the things we do when you have a quarterback like what I've got, and you've got the runners I do, and the O-line and the receivers, and it's another opportunity for a big play is the way I look at it.
You talk about, by the way, Jahmyr Gibbs, when I was at Alabama, A&M played Bama, I think it was 2022 maybe, and his 1 year there, right? Yep. I'm watching from field level, and I'm kind of in a corner of an end zone almost, so I have a weird angle. And I remember run after run on this drive where they're coming at us, where I thought the Aggies had that play completely blown up and busted. And in that little side jump step he does, and all of a sudden I would just see him pop out and come running right towards me for 15 yards and go, I think it's really funny to watch him run in Detroit. He's not nobody's Barry, but just the elusiveness and that explosion out of that cut that he has is that backfield 1-2 is it's pretty remarkable. You went Big 12 and SEC there. Dan, you went so heavy SEC this year in the draft. Y'all loved you some Georgia this year. Talk about this draft class before we move on. How excited you are
Yeah,
about them?
we did. Well, look, we got fired up with a few of these linemen that we got,
Yeah.
and look, it's no secret, man. You find some guys in the SEC and they've been trained and they've gone against top talent, and it's hard to ignore that. You kind of know the type of player that you're getting or the type of competition they've had to go through. I tell you, the harder thing is it's the 1 year. Okay, you got to go back. So, hey, yeah, SEC last year, but where were they at the year before and the year before? Now it starts to get a little muddy, right?
True.
So,
true. That is true.
Yeah, it's every year it changes.
How hard is that? How hard is that for y'all? I talk about it every day here, like the transfer portal, mainly the transfer portal for you guys. How difficult does that make it? Not just in trying to evaluate across conferences, but even like, do you guys have to sometimes dig into, hey, why'd you go to 3 schools? What,
yes, you do. And it's tough, and it's getting tougher. And, so much of it is the hard thing. You got to sort out. It still comes down to what kind of person is it, right? What do they really believe in down deep? What are they in it for? And it's one thing to say, man, I'm at Alabama, I'm at A&M, I'm at LSU, whatever, and I'm second string, I'm third string, whatever, on the depth chart, but these 2 guys that are in front of me are all Americans, and they're going to be first round picks.
Yeah.
And I just want my opportunity my senior year. Well, you got to sort through some of that, because it's like, okay.
Yeah.
You can see some of that versus, well, this doesn't look like it's going my way, and I don't think I'm going to start, or I'm just leaving. And then you go to the next place, and it just looks like it may not be going that, it's going where you want it to. Okay, well, then I'm going to leave that school too, or I'm leaving this spring to go somewhere else. Well, we don't want those guys. I mean, you're looking at guys transfer 2 or 3 times. Like, to me, you're scared of competition. So I don't want to say with every one of them, but we just get them off the board. It's not worth it. But you do have to sort through some of those. It makes it harder. And some of it is their injury history makes it hard too. Because, that all gets lost. The more you transfer, sometimes that gets lost.
Oh, yeah.
The data doesn't always get transferred over. And so you got to run it all down and figure everything out. That's just what we're charged with now.
In some ways, the way you describe it, it almost might make it a little bit easier to kind of sort through who's kind of trying to stay a step ahead of adversity. Speaking of, you mentioned adversity, you mentioned the movies, right? You mentioned The Last of the Mohicans. How often does Dan Campbell, if you're a Detroit Lion player, does Dan Campbell reference? I can't imagine. How many Braveheart examples have you given him? How many? What is higher on the scale, Metallica or movies?
Yeah, well, Metallica would be higher than movies, but I do use some movies, and believe it or not, there's these things, man. You keep it fresh, keep it to where you want, and I'm like, screw that. You need to know what we grew up with on some of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some history, give you a little history lesson. So I try to mix it up, but it would be more Metallica than it would be anything else, probably. I'm trying to broaden their horizons.
By the way, I saw them a couple weeks ago. I know I was trying to get you there for that, but they didn't play Unforgiven, which crushed me. I know they've got a million other ones, but that band and their longevity, Dan, have you been able? First of all, how does it feel to know Leckler's dined with Hatfield and you have not? Shane Leckler, of all people.
It's frustrating.
I mean, right?
It's frustrating, The guy who the first time we ever went, he didn't even know anything about him. We get him to go, and he's just dreading the whole thing and just nonstop complaining about it. But now he sees them, and it's like, man, you guys are the best. I've been a fan since I was just this tall. It's like, come on, Leck.
I swear, 20 years later, Dan tells him we were giving you a hard time because we'd both met him, and you told Leckler, you said, oh, yeah, I bet he was real impressed. He got to meet the punter. He said that was probably the biggest day of his life. And hey, we're talking the other day. I'm in Cleveland, and we're talking with a group. I saw, Kelsey and them interviewed Brad Pitt for their podcast, Jason and Travis, and the discussion comes up of best Brad Pitt movies with F1 coming out. Have you seen that one yet?
I have not seen it. I do want to see it though, if I get a minute.
I figured that'd be you and Holly seeing that like day one. But we're talking best Brad Pitt movies. No one at the table had heard, and this is about 10 people, no one had heard of what I think's the best Brad Pitt movie. And I was like on the table recommending it to everyone. What you're going to agree with me? What? Give me your top one or two.
Yeah, Legends of the Fall. That's number one, and it's not close, in my
That's the
opinion.
one. I agree. And no one, you talk about to this day, like your team and stuff, no one knows or remembers that movie. And it kills me.
No, it's crazy. But you know what? If they just took the time to get started on it, they'd love it. They would.
Yeah. It is. It's like you say, I tell people it's kind of like Yellowstone in movie form 20 years ago or whatever.
That's a good way to put it.
But
that's a good way.
I was going to say you could show them the Brad Pitt scene versus the Bear, like before you guys play Chicago, except I don't want to do a spoiler alert if people are going to actually watch it. Dan, how close you follow? I know you do to some as much as you can as an NFL head coach, but just Texas A&M right now, where they're at, and Mike Elko, obviously first year last season, and where they're at right now.
Yeah, look, I try to, as much as I can from afar, I say this all the time. I barely have enough time for my own family.
Yeah.
But I certainly, man, I try to peek and keep an eye on things, and because it still means something to me. I mean, every time, and I haven't been back as much as I'd like to be back, but just the amount of growth that's taken place in the area and the campus and the things that have changed, but yet things that are still the same, which make it Texas A&M. That's what makes it special, And so, look, I'm still a huge fan, man, and I'm dying for that. I know I'm a big believer, and I know it's going to come because when you're where I'm at, and you see the talent that is at A&M or that's coming through every year, or as you're scouting some of these guys and you don't know entirely who everybody is, but you see some of this young talent, man, it fires you up. And so, like, to me, it's coming. Like it's, and I know well, man, when is it coming? But I just think we're going to get to the point where we're talking about it in the same level of Georgia and Alabama, and it's going to come, man. I believe that. Just got to keep the faith, and I think Elko's doing a hell of a job. It's not easy. There's nothing easy about it, and that's not an excuse for anybody. It's not easy, man. You got to be able to, do things the way you want to do them, with the guys you want to do them with, and set the standards, and then, man, find you some wins. And look, you kind of got to get lucky a little bit too early. You got to get a little bit lucky, and then once that happens, you start getting a taste of it, success, and then it really takes off for you.
I do think it's the closest thing to the NFL, and you were in the Big 12 when the Big 12 was more like the SEC. I watched it deteriorate, and you lose Nebraska, you lose Colorado, certain programs that were up and elite didn't. But when you guys were in it, you had the black shirts. You had to slay the dragon at Nebraska. Colorado was they were on the come down, but they were still really good there. Think about that showdown in was that your freshman year, 95?
Yeah.
You were at that game, right? Yeah.
Yep.
It was DAP played.
That's right.
Kansas State was at their peak. That's the SEC now, where it's like the NFL, where like you talked about learning to win. Almost every conference game you play is going to come down to a drive to the last 4 minutes, or a certain guy being hurt or not. Like it just is what it is. So like you said, you've got to have some luck. To me, I equate it to almost to getting to a Super Bowl. NFL playoffs, you get to that final 8 or so, what's really the difference? right?
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody,
That's right.
everybody can win it. Speaking of A&M, Dan, I saw the video, and I know you had the family come surprise you and Coach Clark, but what did that mean to you? Texas A&M Letterman's Hall of Fame. That was hard. That was a hard secret to keep. I know Seth was over the moon that he was getting to be a part of telling you.
Well, it meant a lot, and I was totally blown away. I was shocked. I mean, I wasn't even I didn't even realize when they put it. It was on the screen when they first, RC and some of my old teammates. I didn't even, I didn't even read it. I just thought we were getting ready for this questionnaire. So everybody did a good job of keeping the secret from me. And then it was when RC got on and him kind of talking through it. I'm like, wait a minute, this is for me. Man, I'm flattered. I'm blown away, and if I'm being totally honest, I don't feel like it's something I deserve. There's a lot more Aggies that deserve this more than I do, but I am very flattered, and I'm thankful for it, and I'm thankful for all the guys that I played with, and certainly Coach Slocum, the people that I came across. Billy, you and I have gone back. I mean, I've known you longer than anybody. I mean, we've been roommates for all those times down there, known each other for since whatever. 1994.
Jeez.
I mean, it's a long time, man.
Yeah.
So, and those are good times. But man, I'm flattered, and I want to thank all those guys, and it means a lot to me. It does.
That team, that 98 team, you talk about going back. I actually was texting with Bum yesterday. I still see it's like any of them come in town to get to see them. I know every time we do, I'll send you a picture of one of them or something, but such a special group. I've been here this long. That group is still the most special. But how much did that team, Dan, shape kind of who you are as a coach? Because I see it. I see it because I saw you then. I see you now. How much did that team and RC and that coaching staff shape who you are today in your profession?
Yeah, I would say I would say a lot. I mean, that has those times have a big bearing on you when you have success with a group of guys, and it's a special group, and you think about all that we went through to prepare, and to win games and to win big games, and man, all those 2 o'clocks in the middle of summer, man, out there, training and running and the hanging out, the just all of it, man, the sacrifice that goes with it with that group of guys. And when you get in these games, man, I thought something that we really did well was, man, we knew how to complement each other. We played off each other very well. And that's credit to RC, certainly the way we played. He believed in defense. He believed in ball control, converting on first down or third downs for first downs. That was what he believed in, and we won some games with special teams. We always give Leckler hell, but Leckler is a special punter. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a Hall of Fame punter. In the NFL. I
Yeah.
mean, so, but flipping the field, man, and then just everything that we had, and I'm a big believer in that. You mentioned that about playoffs and SEC football, and man, it's about the matchups. It really is. It's about the matchup. So you can be great across the board here, and all of a sudden, man, you get one matchup that puts you in a hard spot, and if you don't cover your ass, you can be in trouble. And I just feel like that was something that we did really well, and our guys bought in, they believed, and it was a special group, man. It was a special group.
Hey, you talk about Shane Leckler in the Hall of Fame, right? And he absolutely needs to and will be in there one day. Is it wild? I always talk about this. It's crazy as we watch like Alex Caruso win his second NBA title and Chris Middleton NBA championship, Olympic gold medal, all these successful Aggies. But you realize right now A&M's probably got, in my opinion, 3 lay-down gold jacket guys out there in Leckler, Mike Evans, and Von Miller. And, Miles is probably a little, he's got, he's younger on the younger side, but certainly trending that way. It's kind of mind-blowing, right, Dan? You guys played with so many great players, and I've covered so many, and there were so many before it. This is kind of a golden age for Aggies in pro sports, it feels like. Have you ever stopped and thought about that there might be 4 guys trending for gold jackets right now that played here in College
Well,
Station?
you know what? Not really until you just said that, and then I'm like, man, when you said that, I'm like, the first 2 I thought of, other than Shane, was Von Miller and Mike Evans, and I'm like, because it makes too much sense. I mean,
Yeah.
it's going to be hard for them not to get in.
Yeah.
I mean, you put up the numbers and the longevity they've had, the durability, and then the Super Bowl wins. I mean, how do you? It is, man. Those are some special players, and to say that some form or fashion, those players have been around those players. They really represent. They represent Texas A&M, and they were a part of. They were a part of all that. It is, man. I haven't thought of that. That's pretty good, though. It's pretty good.
All right, going on before we go, I got a couple. Number one, if walkout song, college, pro, whatever, if Dan Campbell ran the stadium, you were the stadium DJ, not the head coach, and we said, Dan, you get to pick the team's walkout. We know what group I think we know what group you're picking. What song are you using? Or are you going to surprise me? Are you going to go Creed or Nickelback here?
No. Yeah, I tell you, the one thing that I did think about was, look, Metallica is always my shoe, and it's like, hey, give me your favorite Metallica song. Every time somebody asks me that, I give them a new one.
Yeah,
because they're all. I mean, I could shuffle them. But one of the first ones I actually thought of was "Man in the Box," Alice in Chains. That was one of the first ones I actually thought of.
That's intense. That would be the beginning of that. I feel like a crowd could get into that. You'd have to teach them. Like
I know,
you said,
I know. It would be a little bit unique, but
that would definitely be one that if I was like a football player, I would have that on my playlist if I wanted to get right before a game. And then secondly, you finally, after all these years, right, you dipped your toe into a little acting. The Applebee's commercials. Yeah. How much should people come up to you about that? Because I give Applebee's credit, Dan. They freaking cashed, like, that was perfect. You were perfect. If I was going to say, get Dan something that he'll be good at playing, that guy right there, that Applebee's coach, was incredible. But how fun was that? And then how much should people come up and talk to you about it afterwards?
The assistant shift manager.
It's so good, dude.
Yeah, it was. I have people come up to me and, man, we love that. We love the Applebee's commercial. Hey, man, I went and got 6 wings the other day because of
what you did with the menu. I was laughing because I was just like, I could have seen him doing it. So that there's a new Happy Gilmore coming out. You go back to our era, right? That was one of the ones that popped up in the movie theater that we just loved. And
oh, yeah.
This was back when all you would get is a preview at the movie theater, and then you had to see it in the movie. So that was it. There was no Twitter to look at. So
no social media to get ready for it. No.
So Happy Gilmore was incredible at the time. They're redoing it. So Kelsey's in it, and Trav's got a speaking role, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. It made me thinking, if you could be in any movie, if they called you right now and said either you were going to be in a remake of something or a sequel or just pick a movie past, what would it be?
Oh, my gosh.
That goes 2 ways, too, because I know you're either going to go comedy or you're going to go like you want to get killed by Mel Gibson in Braveheart or something.
Well, yeah, the first thing I thought of, God rest his soul, I wish Chris Farley was still alive, because a reboot of Tommy Boy, if I could be in that with Chris Farley, that would be the best.
Yeah, that would. I would have thought maybe you'd have gone Ace.
Yeah, no doubt.
You
Well,
like
since I watched that every night to go to bed for like 4 years in a row.
people don't realize like we would go out, go buy a dozen flour tortillas and queso, and go sit and put
No
put
doubt.
on Ace Ventura. That was like
No doubt.
literally that was it. That's what we do. Recap the night, eat some tortillas, watch Ace Ventura.
A dozen tortillas for 35 cents.
You'd have made, yeah, exactly. You'd have made a good Mr. Shika dance. You'd have been a great Shika dance. Hey, and before Dan, before I let you go, that one of those nights, this is an incredible story. Speaking of a movie, you lived a real life scene from a movie. You probably don't know where I'm going yet with this, but you mentioned that Metallica concert. You literally, we stayed up and did that tortilla thing and watched movies or whatever because you couldn't go to sleep because in the middle of the night, like before sun up, you were getting in the car and driving to Houston to buy, like it was the concert of the summer. You did a Dazed and Confused where you set up all night, drove to Houston because remember, that's when you had to go to like Ticketmaster to buy tickets.
Yep.
So pulled an all-nighter just to go buy the Metallica tickets when they dropped. So that was like straight out of Dazed and Confused, which is another one that could have been on that list.
That's a great one too. But yes, I did. And actually, you know what? I had a partner for that. Jason Bragg was with me on that trip.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was worth it too.
Hey, all this has been worth it. And following this trip right now that you guys are on in Detroit, it's not just me. There's a million Aggies that are fired up about it and looking forward to getting back up to that city because it's just it'll be another fun season. So appreciate you taking the time, and we'll catch up soon, brother.
Yeah, appreciate it, Billy. As always, good seeing you and good to talking to all in Aggie land. And man, I only wish the best for all the Aggies and Aggie sports and love you, brother.
Love you. Tell Piper hi. She's probably sitting there waiting for lunch.